Hi guys, it's Paula and I hope you are doing well. This is going to be a finale for the Panning Games project. This was a Fantastic Ladies collaboration that started on August 1st, 2018. That seems like a long time ago, but it was only a little over 12 months ago. This project was so exciting for me. We were challenged to put 50 products into a box and then pull 24 out within a minute, I believe we had. 30 seconds. It was really quick. And the 24 products we picked represented the 24 tributes of the Hunger Games, one of my all-time favorite books, one of my all-time favorite movies. I love reading that book. So we were to take those 24 items and pan them over the next year. My own little twist on this project was to take 50 unused, never before placed on my eyes eyeshadow palettes, focus on 2 at a time with the only goal of using each 2 one time during the month. Now in the end, it has been 2 months since my last update. I did not do an update last month, which means there's 2 palettes I never got to in this project. I thought about prolonging this project for 1 more month, but in the end, I decided that I would like to do the finale around the same time as everybody else and just move on. Hopefully I will get to the 2 palettes I never used in this project. Let me show you what they are really quick. The 2 palettes that I never got a chance to use in this project that I had pulled from the original 24 are the ColourPop Double Entendre palette. It's a dupe for the Toasted palette. Looks like this. Nice warm neutrals. And this Artist Palette for Eyes and Cheeks by Laura Mercier. And it looks like this. Part of the fun of this project wasn't just getting the opportunity to use 24 palettes that I'd never used before, but deciding which 2 palettes I would choose for each month, which 2 palettes were the best for that time of year, which 2 palettes would complement each other or contrast each other in a nice way. So that was a lot of fun. I did manage to meet my goal of using 22 out of the 24 palettes at least once during the month. So I thought it would be fun to do a kind of general top 3, bottom 3 out of the 22 palettes that I used over the last year. Now, none of these got extensive use. A lot of times I did only use them one time during that month. So this isn't a really comprehensive review, but I thought I'd talk about the 3 palettes that I enjoyed the most during the time that I did use them, and the 3 palettes that were the most forgettable out of the bunch. Everything else just kind of fell somewhere in the middle. In no particular order for the top 3, I chose the Sweet Peach palette from Too Faced. I really enjoyed using this palette the month that I had it. I had a chance to use this multiple times, and my overall feeling at the end of the month was that I wasn't ready to put it back. And I think that says a lot. I really enjoyed using it. This is what it looks like, as if you don't know already. And I think some standouts were definitely Nectar and Candied Peach. I really enjoyed using those 2 shadows together for a very light, soft look. I really enjoyed it. The next standout of the bunch was the Tarte Make Believe in Yourself palette. That's this one right here. It has a boatload of shimmers that are all quite wearable in one way or another. I didn't find any of these colors to be very difficult to wear. I absolutely love this matte shade that they included in the palette. It is the type of transition shade that I tend to go towards anyways. Kind of a nice mauvey rosy shade. I love that for a transition shade. I really enjoyed this palette, and I like the way it smells too. I love the way Tarte eyeshadow palettes smell. The next palette that I absolutely enjoyed using for the month that it was in rotation is the ColourPop You Had Me at Hello palette. I loved using this palette. I think it was so much fun. These are my kind of neutrals. I absolutely love this palette. It's great. If I could give an honorable mention to one more palette, a top 4 if you will, I would include this one from Bare Minerals. This is the Nudes palette. I was really impressed by this palette. The color selection in this palette is a little bit boring for me. It's a little bit too neutral, which is why it didn't make it into the top 3. But the performance of these shadows was outstanding. I absolutely had a ball using these shadows, and it was great. I thought they performed beautifully. All right, let's talk about the 3 palettes that fell in the bottom 3 out of the 22 palettes I used during this project. The first one is definitely the bottom of the bottom 3. The most bottomest bottom ever, and that is the Tarte Swamp Queen palette. I was so disappointed in this palette. It didn't work for me at all. I don't know why these shadows would not perform for me, but they didn't. And when I mentioned that in the month that I reviewed this palette, a lot of you guys said you had the same experience. So I do know it's not just me. They just didn't perform well. I had a lot of trouble with this palette. The highlight shade had way too much glitter in it for me to enjoy it. And shortly after applying the eyeshadows, they just became a muddy mess. They didn't stay put. They traveled all over my eye, and it was just a disappointment. The next palette that fell into the bottom 3 wasn't a poor performer. It performed all right. I just wasn't really inspired by it, and I wish I would have been. That is the Fortune Favors the Brave palette by Makeup Revolution. I watched so many tutorials on this palette, and the people that I watched created so many lovely looks. I just didn't feel like I achieved that when I worked with this palette. And so maybe that's user error and it's kind of more my fault, but I don't know. These colors just look really dull and dingy. They're neutral, but not in a way that I'm gravitated towards. It just, I don't know. Even just looking at this, it's just kind of blah. And the third palette in my bottom 3 is the Urban Decay Shadow Box palette. I wanted to enjoy this palette so much, and I think there are a couple of shades that I would enjoy using out of this palette, but after a month of having this in rotation, I can tell you that I don't feel like I'm missing it since it came out of rotation. I haven't missed it once since then. There hasn't been one moment where I thought, I should go back to that Urban Decay shadow palette for this look that I want to do. I don't know. It doesn't leave me feeling excited about this palette after using it for the month that it was in rotation. Now, at least one of you are going to ask me if I'm going to declutter the 3 palettes that I chose for the bottom 3, and the answer is no, I'm not, because I'm a makeup hoarder. But even though those palettes fell within the bottom 3 out of this group, I don't think they're unusable. I don't think they're horrible. Maybe eventually one day I would declutter them, but I think there's something good out of each of those palettes as well, and I don't feel like I used any of those palettes enough to say, nope, they can be decluttered. I don't need them in my life. So if any of you were thinking that in your head, there's the answer to your comment. Now let's talk about the 2 palettes that were in rotation for the past 2 months technically, although today is the first time I used both of them. I did not get around to using either of these in the last 2 months. Between my little unexpected hospitalization and then playing catch up with the experiment, I really haven't had a chance to use these at all, but I did create a look today using them, and I will include that look at the end of this video, kind of sped up with some music. So the 2 palettes I pulled 2 months ago were the third of the Smashbox Art Love color palettes. I pulled all 3 of these during the project. They came as a set from Sephora during the holidays a few years ago, and I picked them up and I pulled all 3 during this project. So this is what this one looks like. This was the most neutral out of the bunch. It looks like this. On my eyelid today, I have this shimmery shade. It performed really nicely. And then on the outer part of my eyelid, I have a little bit of this on top of some of the matte shades from the next palette I'm going to be talking about. I wish I would have had a chance to try this blush, and I might leave this out to try it out one time tomorrow. Hopefully I'll remember. I'll probably forget. But I would love to see how that neutral blush performs, because it's been a long time since I've used a neutral blush. I have a bunch of them. I haven't used one in probably 3 years, and I'd just like to try it out and see what I think about it, because I've been using these kind of peachy pink blushes for like 3 years in a row. The second palette that I pulled 2 months ago is the Kat Von D Shade and Light Eye Palette. It looks like this. I knew when I pulled this palette that if I was only going to do one look, I'd want it to be right here. And so I kind of waited for the right opportunity to use these shades, because these warm tone neutrals are easy for me to pull into a look. I wear warm tones all the time, but I wanted to try the cool tone look and see how it performed, see what I thought about it, and I like it. So I used mostly these two shades for my look today. Started out with this one in the crease, then deepened it up with this one. You'll see it in the clip of the video that I post at the end. I am so glad I did this project. I'm so glad I did this project the way that I did it, using untouched palettes. That worked out really well for me in the end, and I had a lot of fun getting more familiar with so many palettes that I'd never used before. It also helped me to realize that I cannot justify another neutral palette. I pulled so many either cool tone neutral or warm tone neutral palettes that I cannot justify buying another neutral palette ever again. I mean, I just have neutral palettes coming out of the wazoo. And so doing this project really helped drive it home that I do not need another neutral palette. I have every palette I could ever imagine in general, but I definitely do not need another neutral palette. So that's one good thing that came out of seeing so many palettes. I was able to compare them to each other and be like, oh, that reminds me a lot of the palette I pulled last month, or 2 months ago, or 3 months ago. It just kind of happened over and over again that I saw some similarities between so many of the different palettes that got pulled for this project. So maybe it was a blessing that this project came along at the time that it did, because I've been doing pretty good with not buying palettes this year, and maybe this project helped with that a little bit. I also had fun getting to familiarize myself with 22 different palettes that I'd never used before and probably still would not have used if I hadn't come across this project. So thank you so much to Amber for creating this project, and thank you to the Fantastic Ladies for putting this project on your Facebook page. This was a ton of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed following along for this project too. I had a lot of fun. Next, I'm going to cut to the clip where I do this eye look. So if you'd like to see that, go ahead and keep watching. Okay guys, I'm back. This is the finished look. I really like how it turned out. It's a nice, cool, neutral look, kind of a smoky eye. It looks more dressed up than a lot of the looks I often do with warm colors. For some reason, the second you add a cool toned shade to your eye, it looks a little bit fancier, but I like the look. That is going to be it for this video, and that is going to be it for this project. Thank you so much for watching, following me along, and supporting me throughout the panning games. It was a lot of fun, and I will see you in the next one.